Voting is your voice. So we have so many different issues that have happened in this country. It's really, truly unprecedented time. So I'm looking forward to these conversations. I think you'll be educated as well as entertained, but most importantly informed. We have morethanavote.org, whenweallvote.org, and fairfight.com. Those resources are imperative as we try to change our future.
Allez, maintenant on écoute. Bah, tu vois rien sur l'écran?
There's no way that we can talk about hip-hop, or even the fact that we want to talk about activism, black voter suppression, without bringing in this guy straight from Port Arthur, Texas. We were talking about Bumby. He is an activist, a scholar, and an all-around gentleman. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Bun, I don't want to start heavy, but I guess I have to, because that's where we are in the world today.
Il est déjà commencé, hein.
And when you think about what
Il est déjà
needs to happen
commencé,
in
hein.
this country in terms of change, what's the first thing that you think of?
Genre tu vois un truc sur l'écran?
Ah ouais?
That's pretty much the first thing that comes to mind, right? Black people need to be seen as
Les Noirs
equals in
doivent
this
être
world. You know, we had to fight just to be recognized as a full citizen in this country, and not 3/5.
The world is now seeing what we've known for so long in the culture and in the community. The one way that we can fight is obviously voting. Talk to me about what voting means to you.
I hear people all the time talking about one vote doesn't matter and that voting doesn't make a difference. If that's true, why do they work so hard to suppress the black vote? Because they understand the power of the vote. And so it's time that black people collectively also understand the power of their vote. And not just on the national level, because a lot of times we only have this conversation every 4 years. People need to be very much involved in their local politics. They need to understand who their elected officials are, where they stand on issues that affect you. And you need to use your vote to either support the ones that care about you and your condition, or to elect people who do. A newer initiative
derrière moi, s'il te plaît.
Educating felons, right? So in the state of Texas, if you're a felon, right, if you've been to jail or to prison, but you're no longer on probation or parole, you have the right to register to vote. Another thing that was just brought to my attention is an initiative called Orange, which is happening not just in Houston, but all over the country. If you're in jail currently, during pre-trial, but you have not been convicted, like you're still in jail waiting for your day in court, you are still eligible to vote.
And you said something so key. They work so hard to hope that we stay uninformed, but more importantly, to suppress the black vote. If you could do one thing with this message that we're trying to send today about how important voting is, what type of images would you like our people to understand and see when they go to these polls and vote, or when they cast their ballots?
I think the images that we've all seen, you know what I'm saying, for decades in this country, if not centuries in this country, we've seen black people oppressed, we've seen black people attacked. So every time you look back and you see those old black and white images of people of color being attacked by dogs and people of color being sprayed with hoses, that's what they were fighting for. Back then, they were just fighting for a chance to vote. People like Martin Luther King Jr., people like Malcolm X, these people died to help us be in a position to have the power that we have now, which is to be able to cast a vote and make a decision about the people that have controls over our lives. So, I mean, if you in your own community need a reason to vote, look at a person like George Floyd. If the people in your city
mais c'est un truc sur le de ne pas être assis sur les noirs.
Are not open to issues concerning economic equality, judicial equality, and racial equality, right? If they're scared to say Black Lives Matter, you have the power to put people in those positions who do believe that Black Lives Matter, who do believe in racial equality, economic equality, judicial equality, right? Who see us as human beings. And if the people in your community don't feel that way, vote them out. It's that simple. Just vote them out. We don't have enough time to sit around and hope that people change their minds.
Yeah, Bumby, you point out something so important. We have the power, and that is in our vote, and that is with our voice, and that's how we use our voice. I think of where we are right now. People say this is a particular moment, but it is a movement, not just a moment. It is a movement. Why, in your opinion, was it George Floyd's death? Why was that the chosen brutality for people to say, oh my God, black people are so oppressed in this country, and it is not fair?
I think it's twofold, Carrie. In so many different encounters between people of color and the police, there simply is no proof of what happened in the interaction. And so what happens is, in a court of law, it tends to lean towards the policeman's point of view, right? In this case, we saw very clearly what happened. I think the other thing is due to the fact that everyone was at home basically, during this time period in relation to the coronavirus. You couldn't avoid it, right? It was on every television station. It was on every social media platform. Everywhere you turned, you were constantly hit upside the head with this message. You see in the interaction that this man did nothing to deserve what happened.
That's right. And I think that's so well said, because if you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't worth it, and he didn't have to lose his life. I think that you touched on something that a lot of people talk about, and that is now defunding the police. That has been such a huge conversation. There's so many misconceptions around defunding and dismantling. If you will.
Ça nous apprend à pas être raciste.
All right, so most people, when they hear the term defund the police, they tend to think of, oh, they're going to take away our police department. Nothing could be further from the point. Defunding the police means that in certain communities, even in Houston, take for example, we had over $1 billion allocated to our police force. Now, what is that money being used for? Some of that money tends to be allocated towards riot shields, right? Pepper spray, right? That kind of thing. That's only used against the people that fund this budget, right? So why would the people want to supply the police with the means to oppress them? If the police are concerned about the situations in certain communities with a higher crime rate, well, higher crime rates tend to happen in communities where there's not employment opportunities, right? There's not a lot of social services, and people are going to do what they need to do to take care of themselves and their families. When the community has more opportunities for employment, more opportunities for upward mobility, then they tend to be less of a strain on the government. They tend to have a lower crime rate, and because of that, we'll have less need for the police in those communities.
You are passionate about so many different things in terms of making sure that we are holding our leaders accountable. Talk to me about some of the other projects that you're working on.
Well, right now, obviously, being a part of More Than a Vote is essential. We're dealing with primaries in this country right now, and we just want to educate people. We want to inform people because people are tired, they're angry, they're concerned, and they want information and they want action. And so we want to make sure that we give them the right information and lead them in the right direction. And we thank the people that do not look like us for standing with us right now, because it's very important that people who aren't black be involved, because if black people could have gotten rid of racism, we would have done it hundreds of years ago. And so I'm trying to use my voice and my platform just to let people know that if they feel like I do, there's a number of places they can go to enact change in their community. People need to know about how their city council runs. They need to know that they have the ability to speak when city council meets, to let them know that that's not the way that they feel their city needs to be run. Those are not the places that they feel the money of their community needs to be allocated.
And Bubby, even a step further, they can run for office in their local community. They can run for positions. Like, people act like they leave it up to somebody else. If you're upset, it's not hard to get on the school board. It's not hard to be a part of the city council. It really isn't. And depending on how small your town is, you could be a mayor. The power is with the people, and we need to just know that that's happening.
Absolutely, and it's always been with the people. You know, if you look at Trayvon Martin's mother, Sabrina Fulton, right? She felt that there was a system of racism and a system of oppression that led to her son's death. And so what did she do? She ran for city council, and she was elected to city council. Our own former president, 44, Barack Obama, right, started in the community as an activist, ran for an elected position, became senator, ran for another elected position, and became president of the United States. So don't think that you can't make a difference. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a lot of money. You don't need a lot of power. Your voice is enough to make a difference.
Amen. I feel like I need to go out and run for something. You gave me a rousing speech there, sir. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. When I talk to my brothers, I have to ask you, as a black man, how are you doing? Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm good. I have a very strong relationship with God, so prayer definitely works for me. I have children and grandchildren who are watching me, who are encouraged by what I do, and they're proud of me right now. You know, and that's really what matters. You know, the change starts at home. You know, so as long as you have a support system that believes in what you're doing and supports you in what you're doing, you have everything you need to go out there and fight the good fight. And for those that don't, there's a community of people here to help you. So you can go to places like morethanavote.org. There are many different places that will encourage you, inform you, and they will put you with groups of people that feel like you, that are ready to take action. So no one has to go about this alone if they want to do it.
Yeah, we're stronger together. People have been saying it, but that has much more meaning now that we are in our movement, not just this moment. Bumby, it has been an education, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Keep fighting the good fight.
Keep up the good fight.
C'est fini. Non, il y en a encore après.
So our next guest, I have to admit, I'm a fan, but there are so many different people that we could talk to, and I thought it was so imperative that we speak with her. You know her as Molly on the huge, successful show Insecure, HBO's Insecure. She also has a comedy special highlighting her Nigerian roots, and she's an amazing podcaster. Let's welcome in Yvonne Orji, everyone. You have such a beautiful way of making things funny, giving us our medicine with some candy, right? The humor and the healing. You bring all of that to your space.
C'est pratique de filmer en live parce qu'en fait, je peux partir, allez, par exemple, boire un truc, et vu que même si j'ai raté des images, vu que c'est en live, je peux les revoir.
I'm rediscovering self in a way that is hard but necessary.
15, un truc dans
that will lead to ultimate joy. I know it sounds like a lot, but no, I think
assez longtemps.
I personally think that God put all of us on a global timeout. Like we just, you know, America
parce que j'ai arrêté vu qu'il y a jamais personne qui met un petit commentaire sympa, que c'est bien fait ou pas.
And we're still in the principal's office hoping and wishing we can come out. But I think that if we settle into the timeout and really learn the lesson
Là, mais le problème, c'est que un jour, quand j'irai à MediaMarkt, je me demanderai à ma mère de m'acheter une clé USB pour mettre des musiques dessus et la mettre sur YouTube. Prendre des musiques et la mettre sur la Play.
To learn me in a new way, I feel like I'm being ushered into a new season, and I'm getting still. Because sometimes the busy confounds
ouais, mais je demanderai à ma mère de m'acheter une
that
clé
we're supposed
USB.
to actually be doing. You know, we're busy doing other stuff, but we got work that we need to do on the inside. And I'm leaning into it. I'm like, dang,
migration de la
I thought I was
fête.
gonna be able to rest like everybody else. And these guys like, nah, we got work to do.
You know what? And I think that's what everybody is saying about 2020. It's demanding that we be better. And you said it's a global timeout.
Une migration, donc ça va nous changer de
serveur.
Yeah,
it's like everyone sit down, be humble, to quote the great prophet Kendrick Lamar.
Bah, je pense une migration. Les animaux, quand ils font une migration, ils changent de secteur.
Let us unearth and shake up the things that we have been trying to hide within ourselves, within our nation. I think America is going through an unraveling right now, a much needed, a much necessary one, and I think all eyes on us, right? There is no, I was on the subway for an hour, so I didn't miss that thing that
C'était 30
happened.
minutes, hein.
No,
Je peux aller boire un coup, j'ai le temps.
Everybody, was watching when George Floyd died, and everybody, no one could hide it. Everyone was watching when Amy Cooper called the cops. Like, this is a time where it's like, we can't pretend it away. We can't excuse it away. No. It's a global timeout. Sit down, watch, and let's learn. And globally, it's like, hey, we were going business as usual, but it ain't usual no more. Like, that's old. Anytime change occurs, it's very uncomfortable. And so right now we're getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
En fait, je trouve ça bien, même si c'est long. Mais en vrai, ça parle de trucs intéressants. Moi, ça parle de trucs intéressants.
Everyone had to pay attention to George Floyd. How is that helping us as a people, as a country, during our global timeout?
I think, well, one, we're not minorities, Carrie. You already know it. It's like these labels that they put on us. It's like the same way of saying like black on black violence. Also, there's no white on white violence. It's branding,
yeah,
right? It's all branding.
You're right.
It's like white people kill white people every single day. So no, there is no black on black violence. And if you say black on black violence, well then let's brand white on white violence. Like I watch Investigation Discovery. Ain't too many of us being featured. So I just even like, but to answer your question, what does that do? I think what everyone expected is what has happened in the past when the world was still open, right? In that,
tu vas peut-être certainement avoir un cadeau vu que t'as pas pu l'avoir.
From Trayvon Martin to Castillo to Sandra Bland, you had all of these lives lost, and black people made some noise. We rioted, we got out in the streets, we started the Black Lives Matter movement, all of those things. and then white people kind of just like, oh, let's give them something, and then it's just like, is it over? It's like Oscar so black. Okay, good. We gave some Oscars. Are we good now? Like, are we even? You know, and it's just like, oh no. This is not about like a Band-Aid. It's like, yo, we might have to amputate the leg a little bit, but it's all right. By amputating the leg, we're gonna save the body. And so I think that's what's happening now. Like, America is realizing, like, oh, black people aren't just making a little bit of noise. Like, the protests are still out. The conversations are still being had. The change is still being demanded. And I think they're seeing, oh, this is not going away. And no, it's not, because we need systematic change.
What a beautiful way to explore what is happening and describe our country. We might have to amputate the leg, but that's to save the body. That's what's happening right now. That's beautiful, Yvonne. And to that end, I have to ask you this, because the way that we do that, we use our voice. And our voice right now in this world, in this country, is our vote. And everyone talks about voting and how important it is.
Et dire que le bol fait jour et chez nous, on devrait dormir déjà.
4 years for the man in office. It's about your local elections. It's about the mayor. It is about the district attorney, the people who have the power to bring charges against police if police brutality is an issue in your community. If you care about your school district, you can run for the school board. I ask this of you, right? Your parents are from Nigeria. You are Nigerian. You talk about that very lovingly. What does voting mean for you?
You know, I think voting is power. I remember, you know, I became a naturalized citizen back in the 90s when, because I was still a minor, my mom naturalized, and so we were able to do it under her. And just even that power of, like, we are American citizens, and all the access that we have by being citizens, one of those accesses and those access to power being voting. It's a big deal. It's a big deal because not only do we have the opportunity to be in this country, but now we can be of the country. We can be of the systems. We can be of the rules. We can be of what it actually affords. But I think, going back to your earlier comment about just the setup of systems, I think we are done a disservice, either it's schools or whatever it is, and I'm not putting teachers on blast. I think teachers do a phenomenal job, but for some reason, we do not, and give them all the raises. I know too many parents who are like, this child of mine, I do love them, but hey, where can I drop them off? And I do think that there is a disservice done because, again, when we talk about this, we talk about every 4 years. It's important to vote for the presidency. We don't realize, like, oh, snap. We actually can vote about, like, how much our libraries get. It's like small things like that, but they make a big difference.
When you think of voter suppression in this country, what does it look like for you?
It's the systems. When we talk about voter suppression, we also talk about systematic racism, right? It's all the systems that set up. And we've normalized, okay, maybe your job will give you a half day, or maybe, you know, you'll be able to get this luxury. It shouldn't be a luxury. It should be built into the system. It should be built into the fabric of how we vote. But maybe you'll be able to get this luxury in order to enable you to go vote. Think about everything disenfranchised, marginalized Black person has to endure in a day. So in a day, you need to get to work. If something happens to your car, if something happens to your child care, if something happens to, there's so many factors along the way that can send you into a tailspin as an American. And then you add on as a person of color. If you're just trying to get to vote and you already have to go through all of these
Pour toi, l'écran, il est noir ou il est bleu?
Everyday life, imagine the one day when your voice really is supposed to matter the most in this country, but then you also see all the time that you try
je vois le visage.
and then it's been shut down, repressed, told it doesn't matter,
Bah
and
si,
then
moi
you're
je
kind
vois.
of like, what's the
À
point?
part qu'il y a les gens devant moi.
How do we keep hope, though? If I'm watching this right now, how do we as a people stay hopeful? How do we believe in the promise that these quote-unquote forefathers have given us?
Because have you met Black people? By default, like, hope is infused in our DNA. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if we haven't been broken now through, be it through slavery,
s'accroupir, ces gens.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
Colonization, through segregation, through, you know, I mean, listen, the history of black people in this country is, at one point, we were 3/5 people.
Ouais. C'est le genre de mec qui te finit pour rien.
That was a written law. And look at us now. We are whole. We are black girl magic. We are black boy joy. We are, you know what I'm saying?
C'est toi le chevalier noir, André.
Giving us hope, right? We're making a lot of people nervous right now, Carrie. We're making a lot of people nervous right now because they're like, dang, we put all these obstacles in their way, and these jokers are resilient. But that should give us hope. That should give us hope that, like, we can't stop, won't stop. I mean, I went to the school of Diddy. You know what I'm saying? Hashtag, Harlem's taking it right now. Can't stop, won't stop. And I think that's our motto. We can't stop voting, and we won't stop voting. We can't stop marching, and we won't stop marching. We can't stop thriving, and we won't stop thriving.
To that end, because you led me directly there, I've been asking everyone who's appeared on this platform, what does activism look like? And I feel like back in the day, we had an idea. Yes, it is marching. Yes, it is protesting. Yes, it is speaking out against things that we feel are not right or unjust. But talk to me about what activism looks like for Yvonne Orchard.
Oui, j'ai 3 de ping. Ah non, j'en ai 100 maintenant. Je vais dire, j'ai 3 de ping en faisant un live. Bah, j'en ai un en faisant un live. Là. 127, 128 et ça redescend à 1 ou 5.
All the people who are marching on the front lines, and we're going to be here doing what we know to do best here. And you know what? Somebody needs to bail them out of jail, so that now we need to be in the community, you know, getting money or whatever it is. So it's like everybody has a position to play, and so play your position like a shortstop, bro. So whoever you are, and whatever you do, play your position. So activism could look like, you know what? I'm not the one that's built to be on the front line, but you know what? My pockets go deep. So I'm going to support the people on the front line. You know, I'm a comedian. Black joy is a form of activism.
There's always a call for entertainers or celebrities that have the platform to do something. Why aren't you speaking out? I'm not a believer in thinking that it's mandatory. Like you said, everyone can be an activist and be activated in different ways. But talk to me about the connection. Talk to me about the marginalization in your world and how you feel like it even inspires you to say more.
Oh ouais, ici on a un beau visuel.
Beneath the surface of what we do, like Nietzsche Nash says, it's the who, right? The who is the person who's going to be like, hey, let me call this out. Either blind racism, in terms of overt racism, in terms of ways that we can be better, in terms of ways that we can actually be more uplifting to the community that you may not even realize that you're serving.
Before I let you go, talk to me about the urgency, in your opinion, for people to vote, our people to get out and vote this coming election.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if you think you're tired now, I'm gonna tell you right now, we cannot take this sitting down. We can't take this jokingly. I understand that it may be hard to figure out who to vote for, but at the end of the day, we gotta vote for our families. We gotta vote for our legacies. We gotta vote for continued progress. We have to vote for upward mobility. We have to vote for equality.
Ça allait sur le téléphone, comment ça rend le live?
Lasting. And if we succeeded before, we can do it again. We talk about the whole. This is the time. This is not the time to give up. This is not the time to pretend away that we haven't made progress. We have. There's still much more to be done. And you know what? We might have to get to a point where we pass the baton to our children and our children's children, but we still have work to do now for that generation.
Yvonne Orji, you are everything. You are Molly, but you are not Molly. But I love you so much as Molly on HBO's Insecure. You are an amazing podcaster, Jesus and Jola. Shout out to Lovey. And then we also have movies. Like you, the world. You're a model, a cover model. Also, wait, don't let me forget your hugely successful stand-up comedy special on HBO. Girl, you're doing it all, and I am so grateful. You're truly the dream, not just the American dream. You're the black girl, brown girl, do it all dream, the immigrant dream, everything. You're a beautiful, beautiful soul. I really mean that. Yvonne Orji, ladies and gentlemen, nothing but the best and excellence personified. Thank you so much. Yvonne Orji, ladies and gentlemen, I love you so much, Mama. Nothing but the best and excellence personified. Yvonne Orji, ladies and gentlemen, I love you so much, Mama. So Atlanta has been one of the hotbeds in terms of political unrest and social injustice. We've seen so much happen in that city, and we've also seen so much come from that city, including one of our very own founding fathers of the civil rights movement, and that's Martin Luther King Jr. But right now, we want to welcome in someone
Il y a une personne sur mon live.
to talk about voting, to talk about racial injustice, and how he's trying to help Atlanta's
bien sûr, c'est moi-même.
joins us now, and we the people. Russ, I'm not going to fan out and tell you what some of my favorite songs were that I listened to repeat.
Non, mais j'ai été avec mon propre téléphone sur mon live.
We talk about recently you did an interview where you shared your outlook on culture and music, and you also were very candid about the fact that you have a privilege.
Oh, c'est bon, j'ai une photo de son cul à lui, le plongeur là.
And I'm in
black
culture and I'm benefiting financially off it. So I feel like if you're a white person financially benefiting off of black culture, you have to put finances back into black culture. Just that simple. The you know, screenshots with your feelings, it just comes off like fake empathy, because it comes off very dismissive and very oh, that sucks for y'all. But anyway, back to what I was doing.
Have you felt that way always, or is it now because of the time where we are in this country?
I've always had the feeling. I think now it's just obviously elevated. It's a new level, and there's new, you know, it's to the point now where you can't, first of all, you can't not say anything. Second of all, though, I just think saying something isn't enough anymore. I think, you know, if you have the ability to put money back into a culture that you're financially benefiting from.
Il était noir et après passé bleu. Non mais il était noir et après il était passé bleu.
It's hard to talk race, especially if you're white and you're in the black culture. People just feel as if they can't talk about it. They feel awkward. They feel as if they don't have the privilege or the voice or the words.
Bon,
le mec. How do you find yourself right now in terms of
dans 15 minutes.
Well,
je vais aller boire un coup. Non.
Picking and choosing whether you want to be silent.
Migration de la fête dans 15 minutes.
That's a privilege in and of itself. But no, I mean, you know, I try to just do my best to listen to the black people around me and the educated black people I have in my life. So I do my best to not act like I have all the answers for everything, especially in a culture that I'm not from. But you know, that's why when we decided to raise the money for Black Lives Matter organizations, when we raised 500,000, we got on the phone with some of the women who started Black Lives Matter. I got on the phone with Tamika Mallory. I was on the phone with Karen Civil and talking with my friends to make sure the money went to like the correct places, you know, and people who really need it. It's just about listening. That's all. It's about listening.
Let's talk about that for a moment, because the way I think of activism, for me, it looks very differently. It's not necessarily just protesting on the front lines. I think that's great. But what about being an activist in the way in which you have decided to be one? What inspired you? What did it look like? You said you raised money for Black Lives Matter. What did you do? Walk us through everything that you did and how you find yourself in this moment right now.
So for me,
c'est pas que j'ai vraiment envie de le regarder, mais c'est juste que j'ai envie de le finir le live.
And I decided that I was going to wear t-shirts with a message on them, because I figured what better time to use a platform than in front of, you know, a bunch of people. So one of the t-shirts I wore was if you want to change the system, you know, speak up, white silence is pro-racism, the whole thing. And it didn't really it kind of got swept under the rug back then. But you know, when all this stuff started happening again, been happening, the police brutality against innocent black people, I was like, man, I'm not the biggest artist in the world, and I certainly don't have the most white fans in the world, but I got a good amount of people that I can definitely mobilize and turn into some money. And I know they're down for the cause because it's merch, it's a good thing. And I've always been outspoken anyway, you know. And so how am I going to be in black culture and not be outspoken about racism?
And then I got to ask you this, because you grew up in Atlanta, so that gives you a heads up, depending for so many people, because you're in the crux of that beautiful black city where there are so many wonderful black leaders, almost so much great music, and things that speak to our culture right now. And we are really, really getting our word out, especially with this platform today, and saying that we must use our voice to vote. Talk to me about what the importance of voting for you in this upcoming election.
Yeah, so full transparency, I had never voted before, ever. And cause, I was one of those people who was like, my vote doesn't matter. And, I don't know, maybe it's cause I was younger, maybe it's cause I really thought that, or I don't know, but I just think that it's got to, now this is a bit of a privilege to say it's got to a breaking point for me, because obviously it's been past the breaking point for Black people, but I think that as a whole, the young people need to get out and vote, because we're the ones that never show up. You know what I mean? We never show up to vote, but we're the future. So it's like, look, we got to go out there and vote, and then whatever happens, but at least we did our part.
S'il te plaît, tu peux parler moins fort, on est en live.
Bonjour. Bonjour le live. Bonjour tout le monde.
And there's something beautiful about that. But I want to know why now for you. Why in this moment is it important for you to vote? And what hits your spirit to say, yes, this is the time to do it?
Honestly,
Que fais-tu?
I think that George Floyd really woke up a lot of people, including myself, who I was vocal and outspoken about racism. I would T-shirts, I would talk about it in interviews, like, I was vocal about it. But that video, in that moment, I think me, along with a lot of other people, just kind of was like, all right, like, words are simply not enough anymore. We gotta do something, whether it's raising money, whether it's voting, or all the above. Like, we gotta do something, and I'm ashamed that it took that for me to be like, I need to raise money and I need to vote.
Genre, c'est un film en français, j'espère.
And it just, I guess it snapped a bunch of people out of it, even if you were vocal and whatnot. It's time to actually put your money where your mouth is. It's time to go vote. It's time to just stop talking about it and be about it. And it's been time for that, but like I said, I'm ashamed that it took me this long to actually really, really be about it. But I'm here now.
So Russ, we all know that this is going to be your first time voting. Tell me what that experience is going to be like for you in terms of what you're excited about.
I think what it's going to do for me. It's going to let me know that I'm contributing to something bigger than myself, and I'm actually putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm being about it. Because for so long, and I know I'm not alone with this, but standing on the outside and just screaming about this and that and this should change, and it's like, all right, but did you vote? And so I know it's gonna feel good to know that I played a small role, and that's the problem. I think the mentality of like, my vote doesn't matter needs to be changed to my vote, albeit small, does matter. It's a role I'm playing, and if I play my part and you play your part and he and she plays their part, then we make a difference. But it'll feel. I have a feeling it's gonna feel very, very bigger than me. I mean, I think when you realize that giving actually feels better than receiving, that's when you start wanting to do your part and contribute. So, voting is an easy way to give.
Yeah. To whom much is given, much is required, and you have been given a huge platform. We are so grateful for you, Russ. Philanthropist, artist, community activist, first-time voter. We appreciate you.
Yes. Je te jure.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
La fête de ma mère.
Yeah, so cities like Atlanta and Chicago have been at the
Non, attends, il est fini.
Non.
Ah non.
Mais c'est quoi? Racism as well as police brutality, and what we can do in this country. Again, we're continuing our conversation, letting you know that your voice is your vote and your vote is your voice. We can change where we are in this country. Currently, I like to welcome Jason Hayward. I appreciate you. I brought in Atlanta and Chicago because I know you grew up in the metropolitan
je tiens compte du racisme. J'ai été à une manifestation. Je suis totalement contre le racisme.
And you have been very vocal.
Les gens qui sont racistes, c'est des fils de pute. C'est des fils de flûte.
What has been the hardest thing for you to deal with?
Ouais. Uniquement.
Le juin va bientôt devoir migrer, non? Vous avez marqué dans 15 minutes.
On doit faire quoi là?
Dans 7 minutes.
Mais attends, mais dans cette... Attends, tu vois pas comme un écran bleu comme ça, un contour bleu? Ah ouais. Mais franchement, c'est pas intéressant. Hein, si, mais genre, je tiens compte du racisme, j'ai regardé au moins 4 heures de reportage. C'est bon, j'en ai marre. Je sais que c'est pour la bonne cause. Oui, je sais, tu vois un contour bleu, moi aussi je l'avais vu. Là, je vois plus le film. Je vois plus le film. Là, je vois plus rien non plus.
Vous avez dit l'immigration et pas nous.
Pareil.
You said something I thought was so key because covering sports for so long, I know that it's tough for black players specifically in Major League Baseball to talk about how they feel. Adam Jones did it in a very eloquent way early on, but there are very few that are vocal. You said you all were afraid. Why use that word and why were you afraid?
We was afraid because in 2019 there was 68 of us total. And there are 38 teams. There's 25-man roster on each team. There's a 40-man roster, which is on each team as well. So there aren't many of us. So we're outnumbered in that sense, but not always in a negative way when it comes to our teammates and our clubhouse. To get to this point, you have to move a certain way. You got to be careful what you say.
C'est quoi migration? Ouais, je te promets que moi aussi.
Le truc qui se rapproche de nous là. 5 mètres par
mais c'est quoi l'immigration? On n'est pas des immigrés. Mais je suis pas raciste. Mais c'était une blague, mais genre... Non, les migrants, les immigrés... non, moi, les immigrés, ils sont gentils. Oh. Attends, bouge pas. Bouge pas. Ouais.
Mon tête. Tu vas voir mon tête. Et moi, je vais voir tout gueule.
The type of movement that is sustainable, or is it just for
change de skin. Ouais. Ben je suis pas con. Ah ouais merde. Mais justement je voyais rien, mais on sait jamais s'il y a genre Jonesy caché en dessous. Quel événement? C'est qui ça, Barbe Noire?
Oh là là.
Jason, you said you think it's sustainable.
Non, je rigole.
Especially with your colleagues in baseball, that this can be something.
Bah ouais, mais de toute façon, il a déjà été fait plusieurs fois.
Mais oui, le Blackthorn, mais oui, qui connaît pas?
Police brutality. What are you doing right now in this moment with your platform to help change how we look at voting and how to educate the culture and the community?
Oui, dans Pirates des Caraïbes.
Pirates.
Oui, je sais.
Et il y a le Blackbird aussi.
Et mais sérieux, c'est qui Barbe Noire?
C'est ton oncle. Comme celui qui est sur la télé.
On est d'accord, c'est dans Peter Pan.
Oh là là, là t'es loin là, mec.
Attends. Ah mais oui, c'est dans Bob l'éponge. Ah non, 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 non. Je suis pas... Non, non.
Mais mec, t'es perdu là.
Mais on est d'accord, c'est dans Bob l'éponge.
Mais
je sais.
Barbe noire, barbe rousse.
Ah bah oui. Non mais attends, Barbe Noire c'est dans Pirates des Caraïbes, on est d'accord. Non mais sérieux, c'est dans les Pirates des Caraïbes. Ouais mais cool. Jure c'est un pirate. Putain. Un petit peu. Non, non, non. Non, attends. Je me suis foutu.
60, 58, 57.
Non, je te jure, la vie de ma mère. Il y a... Attends, écoute-moi, regarde.
Tu sais que là, dans mon casque, c'est pas fort, hein, mais à mon avis, dans le live, ils ont plus d'oreilles. Voilà.
T'as dit... Non mais attends. Je rigolais juste quand je disais Bob l'éponge, mais attends, sérieux, c'était un pirate? Tu sais que je savais vraiment pas que les pirates ça existait dans la vraie vie, mais je te promets que je savais pas. La vie de ma mère, je savais pas.
Attention, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
migration.
0.
Relance une partie.
Non, vous faites retourner au salon.
Non.
Ah, mais au pire, vous restez comme ça. Purée de pommes de terre. Les gars, ça va durer encore combien de temps? Les gars, ça va durer encore combien de temps? Non, sérieux, ça dure encore combien de temps? Là, ça fait combien de temps que vous êtes là?
Un certain temps, ça fait déjà 40... Ça fait 42 minutes que le live est lancé.
Tu sais que ça fait quand même 42 minutes que je spread right now.
Biggest athletes, the biggest icons, biggest entertainers are doing their part, but I'm also seeing people out there on the streets.
Il y avait rien à faire.
Oh mec, on va devoir courir vers le... Attends, tu vas pas me dire que ça va recommencer au début le film au moins.
Bah non, ils ont pas que ça qu'à faire de recommencer le truc.
Ah, ils peuvent juste le remettre en boucle, hein.
Non.
Ah quoi? Mais qui aime y retourne au salon?
C'est un peu con qu'ils le mettent quoi. Vous t'es au salon?
Bah ouais, on est tous au salon.
Je suis pas au salon moi.
Oh putain.
Je suis à la fête royale moi.
C'est bon, arrête de mentir.
Je suis en chargement pour la fête royale.
Non mais nous aussi on est en chargement pour la fête royale.
Non.
Vos armes. Ah, ça vous avez vu, je suis en chargement pour la fête royale.
Ah mais nous aussi on avait ça.
Non, je déconne mon boss. Attends, je vais me foutre un skin. Voilà.
Les gars, dites-moi go dès que vous m'entendez.
Toujours cogné.
Oui, on y retourne, allez. Dépêchez-vous, on va rater le film.
Oh les gars.
Allez, mais t'es prêt.
Black Bear.
Ouais.
Oh putain, tu m'entends décalé.
Parce que oui, j'ai comme merde.
Non mais genre je m'entends en double, mais genre en tout petit. Mais genre là je m'entends en décalé. Mais genre en décalé de fou.
Bah bon, ça va prendre quelques secondes.
Oh purée de pommes de terre.
Oh, Alessio.
Tu vois, à chaque diffusion, c'est con que les démons sont désactivés.
C'est quand, bordel de merde, qu'ils vont mettre le truc de... Ils vont mettre un vrai film, genre Batman, Spider-Man...
Ouais, bah oui,
un film Fortnite.
Paye les créateurs, paye les créateurs.
Paye... Covid-19, frère, comme ça on va pas se taper le cinéma du route, frère.
Nous, le cinéma, on est en live, le coronavirus.
En fait, on devrait pas gagner une...
Ben, on l'a déjà
On
gagné.
a déjà gagné une émote. Ouais,
Ah
c'est
oui.
Verdier.
Ah oui, c'est vrai, je l'avais déjà.
Blablabla.
Il y a un autre truc. Je crois qu'on doit gagner un revêtement.
Oui,
Non,
mais
mais
ça, c'est pour le
ça,
31.
non, ça c'est pour les galaxies, là.
Non,
Ceux
c'est
qui
pour
jouent
le
sur ton
31.
téléphone.
Le 31, on a encore un truc. Le 31, c'est le 31.
Le 31 quoi? Le août? Oh putain, c'est long.
Le 31, ça va pas être sur le racisme, ça va être pour...
La musique.
Putain, mais ça pue la merde.
Ce sera de la musique le 31.
Et désolé, mais voilà, ça pue la merde. Frère, ils nous mettent des musiques éclatées au sol. Non, mais ils nous mettent, frère, mettez-nous, je sais pas, un concert en avant-première. Je sais pas, moi, oh, faites un effort.
Ah, je vois le film de d'ici. Je vois deux têtes.
Oh non. Les gars, c'est normal, je le vois pas.
Moi aussi, je le vois.
Non, mais c'est normal, je le vois pas.
Ouais, je vois le
Quoi?
Je vois, moi.
Mais pourquoi? Là, c'est à mon tour, là, je vois plus rien. Je vois pas mon truc.
Il est pas fini.
En fait, ça va se finir à 2h.
Oh oui, ça va se finir à 2h. Pareil.
Alessio, sa tête, t'as vu celui à côté?
Ouais.
Il a l'air très concentré, hein. Pas d'image.
Tu mets... quoi? Attends, signez-là.
Well, it means a lot to be involved with such an impressive collective as you mentioned. And I've said this multiple times, and I know it can be uncomfortable when I say it, but a lot of times we have to get to the root of the issue before we find a solution. And
Allez, Taureau, ils vont te mettre.
On peut envoyer des screens maintenant?
Eh mec, tu sais comment aussi avant, on pouvait tricher sur Clash Royale ou je sais plus sur quoi. Clash Royale ou truc. En fait, tu faisais t'envoyais un message à Supercell, donc au créateur du jeu. Et au début, les gens ils mettaient j'ai perdu 1000 et des GM et tout et ils t'en rendaient, tu vois. Mais après, une fois je l'ai fait et après Supercell m'a répondu si tu redemandes si tu refais ce truc là que j'allais te bannir et tout.
Ok.
Bah voilà.
Vas-y, je ne vois rien. Dylan, tu veux pas qu'on aille faire de la duo parce que là, vas-y, c'est un peu chiant.
Moi, je regarde la boue. Moi, je quitte.
Oh, pareil.
Non, moi, j'attends la boutique dans 10 minutes.
Quoi?
A perfect example took place recently, Kerry, in Kentucky. It was 6 p.m. at night, and so many people were standing in line enthusiastic to vote.
Ah, c'est pour ça qu'il y a des gens en train de le regarder à côté de moi.
You know what the people did? They
Il y a une bonne...
continue to bang on the window. They continue to let it be known. They were not going to leave the premises until they got a chance to vote.
Non, mais j'en ai une bonne dizaine à côté de moi.
And allowed those people to vote.
Bah ouais, regarde, ils sont tous là à gauche.
These barriers show you that it matters, and we're here to help you break through them. The same thing with our platforms and voices, Kerry, because you know what's going to happen. At some point, Breonna Taylor is not going to be trending anymore. People are not going to be protesting anymore. But it's still up to us.
Moi, par live que je lançais, j'avais un viewer minimum. Après, ça pouvait monter jusqu'à des 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mon record, moi, c'est 200. Je sais pas pourquoi, mais d'un coup, on est passé je te promets, on est passé de 4 à 200 d'un coup. Ah, vas-y, fais.
Une fois, je vais essayer de me lancer sur Twitch.
Mais putain, mais t'es con. Your is bon compte puis faire pour pas quoi con.
No doubt. It's like we call these devices smartphones, but yet I can't vote for them. All of the things that we
Tu veux le mien?
All of these barriers are things that people will need to
Si tu veux le mien, je vais bien te le donner. 50 €. 50 € parce que j'ai créé ma propre bannière.
Non. Mais vous pouvez quitter. Oh les gars, qui connaît Coupa?
Bah qui ne connaît pas. Fais votre...
Dylan par exemple, Dylan lui c'est un perché, il connaît pas.
Coupa.
Ah, tu connais pas?
Celui, je me balade dans ma chignole. Ouais, c'est lui. Et c'est lui qui dit, je me balade dans ma chignole.
What happens with that is the next step. You're going to look down at your email, Kerry, you're going to see all of these companies telling you how they're going to work on their diversity, how they're looking themselves in the mirror,
bon, j'arrive.
to make change, just like in sports, right? All the black players, further you get up,
j'ai appris que l'homme descendait du singe, il a dû louper quelques branches.
Bonjour, monsieur Taxi, on peut vous demander de passer à la taxi parce que c'est pas par contre.
Moi j'ai appris que l'homme descendait du singe, mais vu ta gueule, t'as dû louper quelques branches.
Ah. Vous parlez à moi ou à l'autre?
Non, je parle à vous.
Ah. Une garde à vue, ça?
Non, c'était une blague.
Ah ouais, bah,
Vous l'entendez, le monsieur, là? Je t'entends pas, vous.
Non.
Oh Dylan, tu peux quitter.
Voilà, c'est bon. Alors, en fait, là, je fais un TikTok, calme et tout. Et je pense avec les cheveux, tu peux faire ça. Tu peux faire un avec moi.
Qu'est-ce qu'il fait, ce mec? Complètement navré, ouais.
The NBA season comes back. What are your feelings on the season coming back in the midst of everything that is happening?
I think you'll see players challenging the establishment. You're going to see them say, okay, if you have all of these marketing and promotional deals, how many of them are with minorities?
Ah bah voilà,
How many people are you employing in the NBA? What about certain teams? Who do you have as a minority owner? Or what about the candidates that you have for positions of power? NBA players have...
Oh purée de pommes de terre, à Dragon. Dragon est demandé à l'accueil. En plus, mais vraiment, mais c'est nul. Dragon est demandé à l'accueil. Dragon est demandé à l'accueil. Dragon. Walomok. Pourquoi tu voles mes...
they're also seeing the movement happen.
Jalen, I appreciate you because you are always entertaining and informative at once. I really, truly am looking forward to the NBA season. Thank you for working with More Than a Vote because
effectivement, là, il est sur le côté.
All of it is needed, my friend. Be safe, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I love and appreciate you. One call away.
Thank you. Love you, brother.
Love you too.
Every conversation that we had today, I hope was helpful for you. I am so grateful to everyone who came on with me to talk about what's going on in our culture and how we need to change. Huge shout out to Jalen Rose, Bun B, Jason Hayward, Yvonne Orgy, and Russ. Their words were inspiring, but also important and invaluable. I hope your phone is full with all the information that we've been able to place in front of you. Again, you need to check
Drago est demandé au lobby.
They are so important because we want you to vote. That is your voice. It is important.
Les gars, je suis dans un chargement. J'ai pas fait exprès.
So, go to morethanavote.org, fairfight.com, and weallvote.org. Because this message, again, is
ouais. Nix. Qui te fait bander?
Et voilà, c'est la fin. C'est fini. Epic Game is... Voilà,
attends, mais il a quand même réussi à faire jusque là. Putain, qu'il était chiant. Ben, tu quittes ou pas?
Oh bah là, ouais.
Oh, le S, tu quittes.